Boston's adding a Centurion lounge, Delta's changing access rules for American Express cards, and the Apple Card might have a new home. This and more in today's roundup. Grab a drink, hit the like button, and let's dive into it. Starting off, Amex is opening up a giant 2-story lounge in Boston Logan. Taking a look at some of the renders, it looks pretty nice and impressive, and probably worth a visit. In terms of size, it's going to be 20,000 square feet, with a rooftop bar and patio, and the airport's first green roof with plants. I am a bit curious how the plants are going to do given Boston's winters, but I guess they'll figure something out. For example, the Delta MSP Lounge has an outdoor area with plants, and it's pretty cold there too. Construction's expected to break this year and complete by 2027. They haven't announced a partner yet, but expectations are premium food by a top chef probably in the area. Also a cocktail menu crafted by a renowned mixologist. At 20,000 square feet, this is going to be one of the biggest Amex lounges out there. The JFK Lounge is the most obvious comparison because that's also 2 stories. So in contrast, that one's 15,000 square feet, so 25% smaller, and also doesn't have an outdoor area. This one is along a few other ones that are coming up, including Salt Lake City in 2025 this year, and Newark in 2026. Maybe it's just me, but this puts American Express in a pretty insane spot. Of the top 10 US airports, they have lounges in 80% of them, with the only holdouts being Chicago and Orlando. Atlanta is also gigantic at 26,000 square feet. Of the next 10, they have lounges in 7 of them, and yeah, pretty strong list here. The renovated SFO and Seattle ones are 2 of my favorites. Even of the next 5, so number 21 and 25, they have coverage in 3 of them. If you're a domestic traveler and you're not loyal to a specific airline, then this is well worth considering. If you are debating the card, I'd recommend running the numbers for yourself and your spend and situation. I'll link it down below or Google Ask Sebi Platinum worth it and it should pop up. On a side note, if you want to learn about this card or pretty much any other card out there and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website asksebi.com and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, that they make sense, but otherwise, it is a huge way to support the channel, so thank you in advance. Heading over to Delta starting February 1st, 2025, they're going to implement new lounge rules. For Amex Platinum card members, you're going to be limited to 10 visits per year unless you spend $75K or more in the previous calendar year. This 10 cap also applies to the Business Platinum card. And a reminder that you do need to be flying Delta in order to access these lounges, even with these visits. For the Amex Delta Reserve and Delta Reserve Business, it's going to be 15 visits per year, with the same main exception of spending $75K in the calendar year to get past this limit. I think it sounds worse than it is because one visit isn't just one visit. Here, one visit refers to a 24-hour period starting from your first check-in. So even though it's one visit, you can go to multiple lounges within that 24-hour period. So let's say on departure, on connecting airports, and even on arrival, and that's still only using one of those tokens. If you're traveling round trip on the same day flight, you can actually use it both ways. Main takeaway being that one visit is a 24-hour period of visits. Reminder that access is limited to 3 hours before the scheduled departure time, unless it's a connection. If anything, I think for a normal person, this ends up being a net positive because hopefully there's less other people using it, and you're probably not going to push against that cap. The main people that are going to be impacted are business travelers who are visiting lounges every month or maybe even every week or 2. But at the same time, they don't spend enough to have unlimited access. So for example, if the Platinum card, that's 10 visits, about 5 round trips, and most people are going to be within that range. Especially when you consider that sometimes you're running late or you have a tight connection and you're not going to use that token because it's not worth it. If you're a super user and someone that plans to visit a ton, then you could easily add another card to get additional visits. Main reason being that each card has its own allotment, so if you have 2 Platinums, then you're getting more visits or however you want to mix and match it. But yeah, not unusual for some people to have the Amex Platinum and also the Delta Reserve. If you really need additional visits and the credits work out, then I would consider it. The entire idea being that you want to run the numbers to make sure that the math works. I'm in Tokyo right now and run into about 5 to 10 of you a day, and probably not a fair sample, but some of you have pretty chunky setups. For example, I met a couple of 10 Aspire cards between them. That's a ton of annual fees, but the economics works. Also, I met a really smart guy that had 4 gold cards, which I think he strategically upgrades and downgrades between gold and platinum when it makes sense, given how credits work. One of my goals for 2025 is traveling more and also sharing how to book different redemptions. In the past, I always had a pretty big buffer between taking trips and sharing them. And now I've grown a lot more comfortable, and a big reason is today's sponsor, Delete Me. Even if you're a normal person, burglaries are becoming a really big problem for pretty much everyone that has social media. For example, Luca had 30K in jewelry stolen while he was at work. The fundamental issue is people knowing your home address and then you're not at home. Pause the video and do me a quick favor. Search for your first and last name and your street name, or sometimes even just your name and home address. A lot of people are going to see way too much personal information just floating around. You can remove all of this yourself, but it can take hours. Delete Me makes it super easy, and I've been using them for more than a year. In that time, they've reviewed over 50,000 listings, with more than half of the data brokers sharing my personal information. The crazy part is that I'm pretty good about not sharing things, but it still ends up on those places. My favorite part about Delete Me is that they scan for stuff in the background and get the ones of your information removed, all without me having to do anything. On average, Delete Me removes over 2,000 pieces of data in your first 2 years. That's potentially 2,000 listings you would have otherwise have to manually get removed. So if you want to protect your personal information, then check out joindeleteme.com/asksebi and use promo code SEBI for 20% off their US consumer plans. One question I've gotten from a lot of people is why are Delta lounges dealing with so much more crowding compared to other ones? So United and American both have lounges and they do have crowding as well, but it's a lot more tame. One of the big reasons is access and what cards get you in and how they're set up. As of filming, American Airlines has one card that gets you in, and it's a personal one. United has 2, 1 personal, 1 business, and Delta has 4, 2 personal and 2 business. Right off the bat, there's more cards, but also non-airline cards. With Amex, the Platinum card is a lifestyle card, so it's not specifically for people that are flying Delta, but people that are using other perks and who still want lounge access. That means that you have substantially more people that have the card that want to get in. For the other 2 airlines, it's only people that are maining them, that are loyalists and who fly them a ton. For Delta and their lounges, it's kind of everyone, whether you're a loyalist or someone that flies them once in a while, but still wants to try it. This ends up being pretty problematic at hubs. So for example, even though Atlanta has so many Delta lounges, they're pretty crammed. So much so that when I go through Atlanta now, I just opt for the Centurion lounge, which is still busy, but it's more busy to get in. Finding seats and stuff is generally fine. And yeah, it's been pretty good. The line is very much a psychological one because it's more entering your information and them checking you in, at least for the times we've been. Also the same issue with Seattle where it can be pretty tough depending on the timing and when you go. Funny enough, last month when we went, there was one big line, and when they tried to separate it between diamond and non-diamond, the diamond line was a lot longer. So imagine a 30-person line that was by itself before, and then when you separate out diamonds, it was 25 diamonds and 5 normal people. Hubs are always tough because there's just so many people. In contrast, and maybe I'm alone here, but SFO has been pretty solid. I don't remember waiting outside other than people being slow ahead of me, not having their information, or right when the lounge opens. Same thing with LAX, where it's been pretty smooth sailing, other than maybe one time, but then the diamond line was pretty fast compared to normal. Yeah, sometimes the lines definitely look long from the outside, but it's more like people don't have their boarding pass out, or they're not ready, or they're trying to get in with the Delta Platinum card and other shenanigans. One of the big factors is the economics of the cards. I'm not going to dive into everything because that's probably another 20 or 30 minutes and there's a lot of nooks and crannies there, but it gets pretty aggressive. Main idea though is that with the American Airlines card, the key value prop, the reason people get the card, is for lounge access. You also get some elite benefits, but you can also get those with cheaper cards, so the main draw still is lounge access. That's pretty much it, and there's not many other tangible things helping with the annual fee of that card. The reason people get it is because it's cheaper than buying a lounge membership by itself, so you save money there. United's pretty much the same idea, but you do have a bit more help and more status-like benefits. But still, people are getting it for United Club access more than anything else. With the Platinum, Business Platinum, Delta Reserve, and Delta Reserve Business, that's not the case. These cards come with a lot of credits that make them more affordable, and hence easier to justify. For a lot of people, these end up being break-even cards or even keeper cards where you get more value above the annual fee. The annual fee might be X, but you're getting X plus Y credits, so it just depends on how you can use them and if you can. I'm actually kind of curious about this, so let me know in the comments whether you break even, get value, or maybe are close to breaking even so you can still justify it. I have pretty big doubts that people watching are just paying the annual fee and not using any of the credits. But yeah, that's pretty much the case for American and United. That's what you kind of have to do. If I had to guess, most people would be in the $100 to $200 effective annual fee range and higher. So it does make sense because it's a $100 effective annual fee compared to a $500 one. I'm probably not the best example, but I could justify multiple of these American Express cards, these pretty high annual fee ones, because of the credits. but I would have a hard time with the other ones, American Airlines and United, because it's a lot tougher. If anything, those might only be tester cards. Also, if this sounds way too pedestrian and you want something a bit more premium, there is the private suite. That is a lot more expensive though, so one visit is the cost of the annual fee of the Platinum card. It depends on what you're looking for in your bar, but Centurion lounges and Delta Sky Clubs have generally met expectation. For the last story, there's a quick update on the Apple Card. Apple's currently in talks with Barclays and Synchrony to replace Goldman Sachs as their credit card issuer. There were a lot of other suitors as well, but these two seem to be the final two dancing. Both are in talks of a new partnership, and we'll see who wins out. Barclays did used to work with Apple in the past, so they were the old issuer, so that might get interesting. To be fair, that was more of a store financing card, so a bit different than what the current card is. Synchrony could make a ton of sense, given the basket of assets and the portfolio. So the fact that it's more of a straightforward card, and with a subprime and default heavy audience. Even back in 2022, it was announced that they had a loss rate of 2.93%. This was among the worst for big US card issuers, and specifically even higher than subprime lenders. And to be fair, the numbers could have gone better in that time, and maybe they got better at underwriting, but still, it could look like a toxic asset. Despite being one of the most recognizable brands in the world, it's risky and unprofitable. If I had to guess, probably Barclays, because Goldman also sold another portfolio to them as well. So recently they sold them GM, and I don't think they would mind a second deal. Synchrony is more subprime focused, and I'm guessing they'd be more aggressive with either pushing fees, collection, or default risk and accounting for that, so just more there. And I'm not sure if Apple would actually want that. I could be wrong, but I would think that Synchrony would need to make money from this, while Barclays could technically treat it as a loss leader if they need to, or at least break even with it and still be fine. The big question is whether Apple will be willing to compromise on anything in order to get deals through, or what that's going to look like. I can't imagine it's nothing because otherwise they have no options. It's still probably something, but what is that thing? To me, their best move is probably stricter underwriting and lower credit limits, because there's people that are getting way too high limits who have no credit history or very thin credit history. For that reason, I'm not surprised that defaults are high. But yeah, curious what you think. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on our website, askcybe.com, and also down below in the description box. Thank you to DeleteMe for sponsoring today's video. Again, join deleteme.com/askcybe, promo code SEBI for 20% off their US consumer plans. If you made it to this point, leave an Apple emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 3 questions. Number 1, what are your thoughts on the announcement of the Boston Centurion Lounge? Number 2, thoughts about the Delta Lounge limit. Does it affect you or not at all? Also, number 3, what concessions or changes do you think we'll see with the Apple Card given this whole process? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, share this, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.